Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Nicole signaled Jared, "Let's go too." Holding her hand, Jared brought Nicole, who was feeling very tipsy, into the car. She leaned against the seat after getting in, looking dazed but happy nonetheless. Jared's gaze softened as he looked at her and smoothed her hair. "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" "Nope, I'm feeling all right," Nicole denied, understanding that Jared was worried about her after all that carousing. She was feeling rather dizzy, though she was not drunk enough to feel uncomfortable. Jared chuckled in response. "That's good. You should just go to bed once we get home." Judging by the state Nicole was in, Jared figured she would fall asleep before they reached home. Sure enough, Nicole passed out before they were even home. Jared shook his head and chuckled, before carrying her out of the car and striding back to their room. Nicole suddenly opened her eyes and caressed Jared's face after Jared had set her down on the bed. She smiled as her eyes met his. "Jared, why are you so handsome?" Clearly, Nicole was in a drunken stupor, with her words coming out as incoherent. Holding her hand, Jared said, "We're home. Sleep tight." "Nice," Nicole coquettishly said as she wrapped her arms around Jared's neck. "Lay down beside me." Utterly sloshed, Nicole was exuding a deadly charm as she flashed him a radiant smile, causing Jared's eyes to darken. The two locked gazes, and that was when sparks flew. The sun rose during the very next morning, and the bright rays of sun filled the room. Nicole pinched her temples and slowly opened her eyes. Feeling sore all over, she flushed as she recalled last night's events. She could not believe how ludicrous she had been when she was drunk. "You're awake," Jared's voice blared out, his arms circling her into his embrace. Nicole looked up and met Jared's deep-set eyes. Feeling shy, she averted her gaze, unable to look him in the eyes. Jared's gaze softened, and he chuckled. "Do you want to sleep a little longer?" "No, I'm getting up," Nicole replied. The atmosphere was now awkward, with Nicole struggling out of Jared's embrace. However, it was then that Jared carried her out of the bed. "Hey!" Nicole blurted, taken aback and inadvertently wrapping her arms around Jared's neck. "Don't worry. You won't fall." Jared flashed her a devilish smile. Frowning at him, Nicole responded, "I can walk on my own." Nicole could clearly walk on her own. It was just that Jared liked carrying her around. Sure enough, Jared had no intentions of letting Nicole go, and proceeded to bring her into the bathroom. Soon, the splashing of water emanated from the bathroom, followed by Nicole's gasp of exasperation. "Geez, Jared. Can you get out first?" "Together," Jared said in his voice hoarse. "Hey, watch where your hand is." When it was over, he carried her out from the bathroom, with her giving him a dejected glare and a resentful look. "Is he insatiable? We just did it last night, but just now." Nicole was starting to worry about her petite physique. She could not help but wonder if she should just get Jared to return to his own place. Looking at her saddened expression, Jared landed a gentle kiss on her cheek. In response, Nicole pushed him away, saying, "Go away." Jared's approach felt dangerous to Nicole, so she stopped allowing him to get in close proximity to her. Just as this thought flashed through, Nicole wrapped herself in her bathrobe and ran for the wardrobe. Then, she quickly got dressed and left the room. Watching her series of actions, a smile crossed his face. He shook her head and made for the wardrobe as well. Outside the room, Nicole bumped into Nolan and Lana. "Mommy," the children sweetly greeted. "You're up." Nicole's gaze softened and she pulled them towards her. "Let's head down." "Where's Daddy?" Lana asked with a look of doubt when she could not spot Jared's figure. With an odd look on her face, Nicole stiffly said, "He'll be out soon. Let's go down first." "Oh, all right." Lana followed Nicole downstairs. Downstairs, the family was already in the dining room. Grandpa, Grandma, and uncles, Nolan and Lana greeted. "Come over and take a seat," Gloria affectionately said. After Nicole and the kids had gotten themselves seated, Daniel asked, "How is Samuel doing?" Nicole smiled and comforted her parents. Well, he's doing great. You don't need to worry about him. That's good, Daniel stated. Oh, is that so? Gloria asked, seeming a little hesitant. Curious, Nicole asked, Yes, Mom? Something on your mind? We wanted to pay Samuel a visit, Gloria replied. Gloria was worried that they might disturb June and Samuel if they were to pay them a visit. Nicole smirked. If you have the time to visit Samuel, why don't you start thinking about their wedding preparations? They're getting married? Everyone in the room asked in surprise. Even Spencer was shocked, as he did not know this prior. They haven't announced it yet, but my gut feeling informs me that it's not too far ahead, Nicole smirked. So I think you guys might as well start preparing. That way, when they do decide to get married, all they need to do is pick a date and arrange everything. By doing that, they could save a lot of time. Gloria was always anxious about their relationship too, so it was likely that she would be more than willing to prepare for these matters. And sure enough, Gloria went along with Nicole's suggestion. All right then, I'll stay back to prepare for their wedding. Fine by me. Let's prepare like Nicole said, Daniel followed. Spencer shook his head. Well, this is a blessing in disguise for Samuel. If so, I reckon Samuel will be able to hold the wedding once he recovers. Good things come in pairs perhaps. Pretty much, Spencer finished, with everyone acknowledging his analysis, thinking it made perfect sense. In that case, can we ask to be the flower girl and boy in advance? Lana tilted her head with a look of yearning. Hearing that, Nolan frowned in disapproval. Do you have some kind of obsession with being a flower girl? Once those words had been uttered, the family burst out laughing and agreed, sure, as long as Lana likes it. Can I, Mommy? Lana asked for Nicole's permission with utmost seriousness. Nicole then patted Lana's head, saying, Of course you can. Your Uncle Samuel would probably be begging for it. Yay, then I'll be the flower girl, Lana nodded fervently, feeling very determined to follow through. Everyone watching her then burst out into another fit of laughter. Jared, who was making his way downstairs, heard their conversation. With that, he looked at Lana, saying, It's fine as long as you like it. Upon hearing Jared's voice, Lana looked up and exclaimed, Daddy. Jared's gaze flashed with a touch of softness. Lana's sweet voice made his heart melt. After sitting down, everyone enjoyed their breakfast before leaving for work. Daddy, can you send us to kindergarten today? Lana tugged at the seams of Jared's shirt, begging him. It had been ages since Jared and Nicole last sent the kids to kindergarten, so Lana wanted them to do so today. With a smile, Jared promised, Sure thing. Nicole frowned, not supportive of this decision. She was afraid that this would just cause unnecessary trouble. Understanding what her concern was, Jared comforted her while holding her hand. We can go over later. If there were unscrupulous individuals keeping an eye on the kindergarten, they would probably leave after school hours. Hearing that, Nicole felt a little more at ease. Fine. Oh yeah. Lana was on cloud 9, waving her hands excitedly. As Jared brought the two kids to the car, Nicole looked over at Tia, who was walking over, and said, We're sending them today. All right, Nicole, Tia nodded, able to tell how happy Lana was just now. You should head back and take care of Grandma. She just recovered, some sunshine will be great for her, Nicole advised. In return, Tia promised, Don't worry, Nicole. Tia walked back in once she saw the car driving off. Inside the car, Nicole chuckled at Lana's excitement. Jared was all smiles as well, and he could not believe that Lana would be so happy just because they had decided to send them to the kindergarten. Meanwhile, Nolan was the complete opposite. He was rather quiet, seeming to have something on his mind. What's the matter, Nolan? Nicole asked. Looking at her, Nolan bit his lips before he whispered. Mommy, that account has been rather inactive lately. Did it notice I was tracking it? Nicole was shocked by this discovery. You're still tracking that account? Not actively, but I've been monitoring it secretly. It's just that there's nothing much going on, Nolan said in puzzlement. Perhaps that had occurred because he had been discovered, ruining his plan entirely. Nicole's eyes darkened. Stay calm. He might be watching you too. You mean that he's waiting for the perfect timing? Nolan asked, uncertain. That's a possibility, Nicole replied, though it was just her speculation. There were only two possibilities that would account for the inactivity. The first would be that their enemy had gotten wind of some information but had not dared to take the plunge yet. The other reason might be that they had found no recent developments. The 5 crests in question belonged to a centuries-year-old family, so it would not be easy to get a hold of them at all. If that's the case, I will keep waiting, Nolan nodded in agreement. A glimmer of light flashed in Nicole's eyes as she saw Nolan's growing maturity. She figured this was perhaps good practice for Nolan in the process of growing up. Nicole suddenly felt as though everything had been worthwhile, even though she had found no leads herself. Following that, Jared took the kids for dessert at a shop near the kindergarten before sending them in. After they had left the kindergarten, the couple arrived at the headquarters of Riddle Corporation, with Nicole waving goodbye to Jared as she got out of the car. Bye. I'll get going. Jared's eyes glimmered with amusement as he nodded. Once Nicole had entered the company building, Jared withdrew his gaze and ordered, "Drive, Max." And after he had begun driving, Max said, "Mr. Johnston? We have gotten a lock on Iris." "Good," Jared uttered, his voice cold and deep. Meanwhile, the funds on Mrs. Johnston's side look like they've been transferred, but the transaction won't go through, Max added. Jared narrowed his eyes. How long till we can finalize all of this? If everything goes well, tomorrow, Max said with utmost certainty. Nice. Jared leaned against his seat, his eyes carrying a meaningful expression. Meanwhile, Nicole had just arrived at her office. The money has been transferred, and the bank has responded, Lulu informed Nicole in a whisper. Thank God, Nicole breathed a sigh of relief. She was glad she could help Lawrence this time instead of the other way around. Oh, by the way, Lulu looked around before she came closer to Nicole. I heard Genesis Group seems to be hitting a bump. Will this affect you? It doesn't matter, Nicole responded nonchalantly. Leo is indeed in trouble, but I'm helping him in my personal capacity. Consider it a repayment of my debt. It'll be great if I've helped him, but even if things don't work out, I won't be bothered about the trade-offs. You've got a point. But of course, there'll hopefully be no losses, Lulu shrugged her shoulders. In response, Nicole teased, well then, you better pray on that. Oh, don't worry. I will, Lulu said, taking it seriously. Nicole could not help but laugh at Lulu's sincerity as she herself was just joking. Tilting her head in curiosity, Lulu asked, honestly, with what Lawrence is capable of, he usually doesn't need help. What trouble could he be in that he needs to seek your help? Lulu always felt that people like Leo did not need help from anyone. If anything, he ought to be as strong as Jared, and that nothing could ever trouble them. Lulu even recalled that she had never seen Jared being bogged down by anything, not for a long time at least. Hearing Lulu's words, a thought came to mind, and a flash of doubt crossed Nicole. She had not inquired much from Leo about his situation. But Lulu's suspicions reminded her that Leo's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. For him to seek her help this time meant that the situation must be quite dire. Nicole frowned, her expression becoming solemn. She felt conflicted, unsure as to whether she should ask Lawrence about his situation or if more help was needed from her to solve it. Seeing that Nicole had become silent, Lulu tilted her head and asked, "What's up with you? Have you thought of something?" No, it's nothing. Nicole came back to her senses and brushed the idea away. Since Lawrence had not made anything clear and had only stated that it was a break in funds, it could only mean that things were not as serious as she had thought. Believing that he could sort his own issues out, Nicole then shifted the topic by saying, Leo will deal with his own problems. It's none of our business. How are things going with Snow? Hearing this, Lulu sneered. Well, she's obviously hitting roadblocks everywhere. Nicole's eyes widened as she imagined Snow hitting snags. And upon noting Nicole's expression, Lulu excitedly spilled everything to her. So, during the first project seminar, Harvey was a no-show. Instead, he sent a secretary to represent him. But Snow wasn't one to back down easily. She tried every possible way to meet Harvey, but nothing worked. Undeterred, she decided to go straight to Harvey's company to find him. And you won't believe what happened next. Nicole chuckled, amused by Lulu's enthusiasm. She ended up in a deadlock, didn't she? Lulu looked disappointed that Nicole guessed it right away. How did you know so quickly? It's no fun if you're not surprised. Well, Nicole replied calmly, you did mention she kept running into roadblocks. Lulu couldn't help but ask, is there anything that can still surprise you? We'll find out when you share the rest of the story, Nicole said. Even if Nicole would not be surprised about that happened to Snow, it would still be good to hear about her misfortune. So here's the deal. Harvey didn't throw her out. Instead, he got the secretary to welcome her. She was absolutely pissed, and still might be, Lulu said smugly. Snow had been hitting a streak of rotten luck, but she deserved it. If anything, she was bold enough in her attempts to seduce Harvey. Lulu, however, had bet that Harvey would not even spare Snow a glance. Nicole said calmly, she won't give up. Hitting a brick wall would not leave Snow feeling dejected for long. After all, Snow might have already anticipated this outcome. Harvey was her only chance now, so there was no way Snow was letting go of it. Lulu smiled. Where's the point of this kind of self-inflicted obsession? There's no need for a point, as long as there's a result to be desired, Nicole said meaningfully. Harvey was Snow's last chance. If she could grab his attention, Snow would still get a chance to turn the tables. Otherwise, Snow would be stuck in her current situation. Now, she had two choices. Either she got herself married into a second-rate family, just like Rain had, or she could remain single and live with her parents, neither of which she was willing to settle with. Lulu rolled her eyes and continued, she is ambitious, but she isn't capable of a whole lot. Nicole sneered. People are allowed to dream. Her dreams are better left unfulfilled, Lulu retorted, disagreeing with Nicole. Lulu had also thought about whether to remain single her entire life or find someone else, and for her, both decisions were much wiser than the one Snow was making now. Nicole did not reveal to Lulu that even if Snow had other options, she would never consider them as Nicole herself was back. All of the past grudges Snow had against her were now amplified, and Snow would never compromise, not even by a little. Still, at the end of the day, all of these problems were Snow's, and Nicole had no intention of wasting her time on Snow. Nicole would be happy to ignore her as long as whatever Dillcorp did would not affect the main office. With all these failures, I wonder what Snow's next step would be, Lulu shrugged, looking forward to the drama. Nicole smiled at Lulu's antics. Why don't you guess how long Harvey's going to put up with her? After so many attempts from Snow to sabotage them, it seemed inconceivable for them all to fail unless Harvey was purposefully avoiding her. Nicole was quite curious about what Harvey had in mind. If he wanted to avoid Snow, he would have never collaborated with Dillcorp in the first place. After all, there were plenty of better companies in San Joto. Nicole's eyes widened as she thought of something strange. Perhaps Harvey is really up to something. Becoming serious now, Nicole instructed, keep an eye on Snow, especially her interactions with Harvey. Nicole's solemn look made Lulu even more cautious about this matter as she asked, what's wrong? Do you suspect that something is heading our way? I can't quite put my finger on it, but something seems off, Nicole said, feeling that she should pay more attention. All right, I got it, Lulu cautiously agreed. That's it, Nicole nodded. Lulu turned around and left the office. Then, she picked the document on the table up and started working on it. Meanwhile, at Dillcorp, Snow was wearing a sour grimace as she was sitting at her desk. She was frustrated, as she could not believe she had allowed such a good opportunity to go to waste. The more she thought about it, the more discontented she felt. With her fists clenched, she thought, no, this can't be it. It's not easy to come upon such a chance. I sure as hell can't give it up. Snow gritted her teeth. She was determined to get Harvey to meet her even if he was reluctant to do so. In the afternoon, the warm rays of the sun poured into the room. After she had eaten her lunch, Nicole took a break, until there. were 3 knocks on the door. Confused, Nicole declared, "You may enter." Nicole could not figure out who would come knocking at this hour. It could not be Lulu, as she had just gone out. The door opened, and Lawrence entered with a smile on his face. "Leo, what brings you here?" Nicole was taken aback, not expecting it to be Lawrence. "Will you thank me if I say I have news for you?" Lawrence sat on the couch, beaming. Nicole raised her eyebrows, for his words had piqued her curiosity. "What news?" She then began wondering about what sort of news would be so significant that it could prompt Lawrence to tell her about it in person. "It's about the Ellison Group," Lawrence smirked. "Wait? What group? Johnston Group? Jared?" Nicole tensed up. "Has something happened to Jared?" Lawrence's expression darkened as he corrected her. "No, it's Ellison. Harvey Ellison." Upon hearing that it was Harvey, Nicole instantly regained her composure, feeling nothing but indifference towards the issues of others. "Oh, all right. What about him?" Observing Nicole's expression, Lawrence felt a little depressed and disappointed. She seemed concerned when she thought that it was about Jared, yet had regained her cool the instant she discovered that it was about Harvey. "Leo." Nicole raised her voice a little at Lawrence's silence. Lawrence snapped back to reality and wore his usual smile once again. "It seems that Harvey has set his sights on Dillcorp. Not sure whether this is good news or bad news for you." Even though Dillcorp existed as an entity separate from the headquarters, it was still part of the entirety of the Riddle family's assets. As such, Lawrence was unsure if she would see the buy-over of Dillcorp by Harvey as good riddance for an adversary or a pitiful loss for the Riddle family. "So that's why. I see what's going on now," Nicole sneered. She had a feeling that Harvey might be up to something, and now, it seemed that he had set his sights on Dillcorp. "You knew about this?" Lawrence was taken aback. He too had stumbled upon this issue by accident, and that was why he had come to warn her about it. Little did he expect that she had already been informed about it. Nicole shook her head. "It was just a hunch. But with you here, the truth has been confirmed." Previously, she had no evidence, only doubts and speculations. She had planned to wait and observe the situation for a moment before coming to a conclusion, but now, she had gotten her answer. Lawrence flashed her a sheepish smile. "It seems to me that you won't be in any disadvantage." Lawrence was worried that Harvey would not accept his requests and would even pose a threat to Riddle Corporation in the near future. "Perhaps I'm overthinking this. She does not have to go through me for whatever decision she is going to be making. I guess I'll have to put my trust in her," Lawrence thought to himself. Nicole bit her lip and shot him a glance. "I must still thank you for this. With all said and done, he has personally shown up to provide me with such information just in time. I ought to thank him for this," thought Nicole. "There's no need to thank me for this. Just take it as a gesture of goodwill," Lawrence replied with a smile. "Cut the crap. Me helping you is how things should be now. You've given me enough aid before this," Nicole said as she returned the smile. "There will be no end to it if we keep repaying each other's favors." "That's a completely different story. I told you before, whatever happened back then was done out of nothing but goodwill." Lawrence's eyes darkened, not wanting Nicole to feel indebted to him. Nicole raised her eyebrows and cautiously she replied, "Either way, it's not right for me to take advantage of that." Nicole knew that even if Lawrence had done whatever out of the kindness of his heart, she would still not take advantage of anyone. "Nicole, there's really no need for you to do this. It makes things really awkward between us." Lawrence's eyes flashed with hurt and pain, indicating that their relationship was strained, and that they were no longer as close as they used to be. Nicole bit her lips, and in a soft tone, she said, "Leo, we'll always be friends." Lawrence paused for a moment before issuing a sigh of defeat. "Why can't she see that I want us to be more than friends? Want some coffee? I'll have Lulu get some for us." Nicole changed the subject. Lawrence's face became crestfallen, and that was when he suddenly stood up and said, "There's no need for that. I've said what I needed to say, I'll be on my way." Instead of keeping him around, Nicole stood up and bade him goodbye. Okay, I'll send you off. After exiting Nicole's office, Lawrence took one last hesitant glance at Nicole before stepping out of the office. Nicole sighed mentally, as she bumped into Steve just when she was about to return to her office. "Steve," Nicole called out softly. "Were you looking for me?" "Yeah. There's something I need to talk to you about." Steve turned to glance at Lawrence. "What's his deal?" Raising her eyebrows in doubt, she asked, "Steve, why do I feel like you have some kind of beef against Lawrence?" Nicole had never questioned Steve's belligerent attitude towards Lawrence prior to this, but having seen it twice by now, she was certain. It's clear that Steve does not have a keen liking towards Lawrence, regardless of whether I have a grudge against him or not. Steve lowered his voice before adding, "The point is you have to be careful when you're around him." "What do you mean?" Nicole frowned, knowing that Steve would become defensive whenever Lawrence was mentioned in a conversation. "I can't fill you in on the exact details. Don't get me wrong, but that guy is not as simple and straightforward as he seems. Do not get all sentimental and soft-hearted just because he has helped you before," Steve told Nicole. The more Nicole listened, the more confused she became. "Can you cut to the chase?" "I don't have concrete evidence, so I can't prove anything just yet. I believe you know what I'm talking about. You just need to pay more attention to things," he finished. Steve and Sean had been working together to gather evidence against Lawrence, but neither of them had found any that could be used against him. His record was so squeaky clean that it had aroused the suspicion of both Steve and Sean. All they could do now was to get Nicole to be on the alert until they had secured the evidence. After a moment of hesitation, Nicole solemnly agreed, "All right, I know what to do." Nicole was still in the mist on why Steve was being such a worrywart, but knowing that he did indeed look out for her, she had promised him just so that he could be at ease. "Just be alert, okay?" Steve reminded, knowing that he and Sean were not going to give up on their investigation easily. Nicole nodded and changed the subject. "Okay, is there anything else?" "Yeah, here." Steve handed a document over to Nicole. "Sean has gotten his hands on some info about Everett. It seems that he has been getting closer to this unknown figure as of recent. We've yet to find out who." Nicole's eyes flickered back and forth from the document, after which she grabbed it. "Okay. Sean has gotten people to keep an eye on him. I think you should be the one to see this first. If you have any ideas, you can come to Sean and me," he reminded. "Okay." Nicole nodded in agreement. Then, after seeing him off, she returned to her office. Nicole sauntered over to her desk for a seat before opening the document, its pages filled to the brim with information gathered during investigation on Everett. Seeing them, her eyes narrowed. It seems that he disappears once every few days. Nobody knows where he had gone or would go. Everett has not shown up for the past few days either. What is he up to that he has to be so secretive? And with who? Nicole suddenly remembered that it was almost time for Mr. Bennett to disclose his decision. "I bet Everett is sitting on the edge of his seat. I'll give it to him if he can sit still after the announcement." Nicole stashed the document away as her eyes darkened. "I'd like to see who this figure together with Everett is." The next day, the news had spread around like wildfire. What's happening? Yesterday, Nando Corp announced that they are releasing a beta version, and now Riddle Corporation is claiming that they have released a joint product today. It seems that Nando Corp is being crushed by Riddle Corporation. One with a beta and another with a new product. These two are not from the same league to begin with. People were buzzing with chatter, comparing the latest products of the two companies. Meanwhile, Nicole was sitting at her desk as she read the news in real time. "Nicole, I think Everett must be really pissed this time," Lulu exclaimed in triumph. "This ought to set them straight for stealing our projects." Nicole smiled without responding to Lulu. "I don't want to know or care if he's fuming mad. But what I do know is that he has shown his true colors." Nicole's eyes narrowed. as she delivered a message Sean to remind him that they needed to employ extra measures against Everett. Sean replied in a split second, telling Nicole that he would provide her with the updates soon. A faint smile crossed her face as she placed her phone away. The news should come soon. This is the calm before the storm. Nicole, are you hiding something from me? Lulu asked in a low voice upon noting Nicole's expression. Nicole raised her eyebrows and with a smirk, she asked, "How do you know?" "I know you inside and out. I'm guessing this person is going to be unfortunate," Lulu declared. Nicole chuckled a little, after which she told Lulu, "I don't know if they're going to be unfortunate, but what I do know is that I might have solved a mystery because of this." "Is it Everett or Snow?" Lulu asked, her eyes brimming with curiosity. Nicole shrugged. "Everett. She's just," Lulu guffawed. The product Riddle Corporation had released had overtaken the beta version of the same item that his company had doled out. "I discovered what he was up to in the nick of time. If and when he finds out, he will be pissed." Meanwhile, at Nando Corp, Everett came rushing into the office in a panic, his face grim and sullen. "Mr. Riddle? What should we do now?" his assistant anxiously asked. No one at the office had envisioned that this would happen, especially after they had bagged such a successful project from the Riddle Corporation. "What should we do? What can I even do?" Everett shrieked, irritated at her assistant. Startled, his assistant lowered his head, and the rest of the office fell into deep silence. Eventually, Everett calmed down and ordered, "Tell Sky Corporation to change the plans as soon as they can." "Change the plans? But we have already started experimenting." At that point, it was already too late to make any changes, as their product was already in the phases of experimentation and finalization. "Scrap everything. The beta version we released is useless." There was no point in saving their beta project at this juncture. Even if they placed the PR and marketing department on overdrive for this product, the market would still create an imitation of their beta version, and with ease too, unless they could come up with something even more appealing. Everett did not want to waste any more time. "I have to minimize the losses. Otherwise the only option I have is to scrap everything and start from scratch." His assistant agreed. "Yes, Mr. Riddle." Everett was left utterly crestfallen as he contemplated his next move, and he kept at it until his phone suddenly rang. Everett shot his phone a glance, and that was when his expression changed. "You go ahead and sort things out." "Yes, Mr. Riddle." His assistant left. Then, Everett took a deep breath before answering the call. "Hello. Everything is smooth sailing on my end, but yours seems," his correspondent coldly said over the phone. "No, please listen to me. I can explain." Everett broke out in cold sweat. "Explaining won't solve anything." "No. Hello? Hello." Everett became annoyed when the other person hung up on him. He gritted his teeth, hurried out of the office, and drove away. Little did he know that a car was tailing him from behind. As night fell, the lights of Riddle's residence came to life, with the Riddle family having dinner happily. "Mom, were you busy the entire day today? How was it?" Stanley asked Gloria. "I checked a few interior design companies out, but I've opted to leave the final decision to Samuel and June." Gloria smiled. "Now that marriage is in the talks, why do I feel like our mom's looking even happier?" Stanley said, cracking a joke at the sight of his mother being so elated. "Of course, when you all get married, your mom and I can finally be at ease." Daniel looked at Stanley and Spencer, as if to suggest that the both of them were the odd ones out. "Don't look at me, you should be saying this to Stanley," Spencer quickly protested, arguing that he had a girlfriend, and that Stanley was the only one among them who was still single. In a split second, Daniel redirected his glance to Stanley, who threw his arms up as if in surrender. "Pretend I never said anything." Stanley had always been a person who did not have a hoot to give about relationships, let alone marriage. As such, he did not mind if his younger siblings got hitched way before he did. Daniel and Gloria both exchanged glances, after which they each issued a sigh of defeat. Both were praying that Stanley would soon understand where they both were coming from. Stanley quickly scarfed his food down to divert everyone's attention. Forget it. Let's dig in, Daniel said, giving up on convincing Stanley. Gloria began to dig into her food too. Mom, Dad, don't worry about things like these. Marriage isn't something we take lightly. Who knows that after Spencer gets married, perhaps Stanley might even get himself a girlfriend. Nicole posited. Gloria nodded. Ah, at least Nicole understands. Gloria glanced at Stanley as she spoke, causing him to scarf his food down even faster. Not once did he lift his head up thereafter as he kept his eyes on the plate. Having noticed Stanley's behavior, Gloria dropped the idea entirely. She shook her head and urged everyone to eat up, before proceeding to gush about Spencer and June's wedding as it was the only exciting news for her to look forward to. Once dinner was over, the Riddle family all sauntered over to the living room to lounge about. Mom, I'll be heading up first. I have to continue writing my thesis, Stanley said, finding an excuse to flee from his parents' grasps. I'm going to leave too. There's a new score I must study on, Spencer followed suit. He was afraid that after Stanley had left, he would be the next to be placed under the spotlight. Gloria wore a blank look on her face as she watched her two sons scrambled away. It is true when they say that daughters are more considerate than sons. Nicole's the youngest and she has never gotten me to worry about her. My sons on the other hand. Mom, Dad, you can head up to bed. We can take care of Lana and Nolan, Nicole said to Daniel and Gloria. All right, you guys better not stay up too late. Soon after, the old couple left for their bedroom to get themselves some sleep. Nolan and Lana were still engrossed with the TV show they were watching when Nicole went up to them. Nolan, Lana, it's time for bed. Okay. The two of them quickly switched the TV off and headed upstairs with Nicole and Jared. Nolan had just entered his room when he saw a pop-up on his computer. In an instant, he hurried over and clicked on it a few times. To his surprise, however, there was no pop-up at all. Mommy, there's progress, Nolan shouted in enthusiasm. Nicole quickly rushed over to check on the mission she had posted, and that was when she noticed that someone had accepted it. Her eyes widened in shock before a solemn look took over. Nolan quickly climbed off his seat. Then, Nicole quickly sat down and waited for the updates from the person. However, there was none. Mommy, what does this mean? They accepted the mission and they're not giving us any updates. Nolan yelled out in confusion. Mommy was the one who posted the mission. Why did they accept it without proceeding? It makes no sense unless they're clueless. But then, how could they simply accept the mission? Or are they prying for answers, just like they had done last time? Nolan pondered. Nicole quickly came over to assess the situation, and that was when she saw that someone had accepted her mission. Earlier, she had ensured that she had rerouted her IP address so that no one could track her down. Mommy, do you think he accepted it and had logged off to do some research? Lana blinked her eyes as she asked. Jared picked Lana up into his arms. Lana is right. Yes, I was right. I'm smart, Lana boasted. Daddy agreed to what I said, which means I'm right. I can finally help them.
Please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.